This is Dirshu Mishnah Berurah as we continue Simin Mem Zayin Dine Birkas HaTorah. Today we're going to be learning Sif Dalet through Sif Ches. We begin with Sif Dalet, some very, very famous and important halachas today. HaMeharer b'divrei Torah. Someone who thinks in words of Torah in Tzarech Levarach does not have to make Birkas HaTorah. Says the Rama, but what din Yachal lives like din, and similarly you let a paskin halacha beloi nisinas tam without giving the reason lidvarav as to the reason of your psak. Why? The Ran explains because of the have kihir. So explains the Mishnah Berurah over here that when one thinks in Torah, ino yitzarech sivkot and eidi, here lav kedibur dami, because we're paskining. That thinking does not have the same status as talking. And says the Mishnah Berurah, you should be careful those that learn in depth mitecha sefer from a sefer. You should be careful to actually say the words, because after you say Birkas HaTorah, you want to be yaitze the bracha. And if you just think the words while reading them, says the Mishnah Berurah, according to his opinion, you're not yaitze. So you should be careful to actually say the words. Unless we did what our minhag is, of course, to say Birkas Kehanim, to say some psukim after Birkas HaTorah. Comes along the Rama, and the Rama said you're able to pass ken halacha the yachal sivkat and vav, says the Mishnah Berurah nira davka lislik din beloy baldin din bein baldin. This is only to pass ken between parties deinoy derech limud without actually learning. Of a little my din ba sefer belitam then mivarech. To logara mikaisef, says the Mishnah Berurah, if you're learning something from a sefer, that's no less than writing, and therefore you should actually make Birkas HaTorah beforehand. Now, of course, this seemingly is a machlokes between the Mechaber and the Maramah, because the Mechaber just said that you're Mahara b'divrei Torah, don't worry about it. And the example of the Mishnah Berurah was that you're reading from a sefer, and he said you should ensure to say the words. Now, the Ramah that says you could pass ken halacha, says the Mishnah Berurah that if you're learning from a sefer without a reason, then you have to actually make a bracha. Comes along the Mishnah Berurah Sivkat and Zayin lives like Shatam Shu Eker Adin Eino Elo Mahara B'Liboy. The reason is because just giving up psak halacha, that's similar to just thinking in Torah. But now continues the Mishnah Berurah V'Agabi B'Ruach Chaylik Al Zeh Osfir Alei, says the Vilna Gaon to Logara Zeh Me'akar Yemikra Belvad Esarich Lavarich, says the Gaon, just like if you read psukim you have to say Birkas HaTorah. This is no less than that. Va'afilu b'hir levad machmer shel calls man shel Birkas HaTorah. The gain was machmer. So that's another reason that one should be stringent, as the gain is machmer. Ulukuli alma mutlas zeiza pulas mitzvah kun Birkas HaTorah. Says Mishnah Berurah you could do a mitzvah afal gav to be smeis bevadi umahar b'din hazeh. Even though while doing the mitzvah, of course, you're thinking about what you're doing. So that's at some level called thinking in Torah. Still, if you mutter, it's allowed. The kol shein miskaven limudei notzarich bracha. If you're not having the intent to learn, you do not need a bracha. So to do a mitzvah, everyone's agreeing is allowed. To think in Torah, that comes out, that's a machlokes between the Mechaber and the Vilna Gaon. To paskin halacha without reasoning, that is a level of hearer, and that's going to be allowed. But to read is something without a reason, that is something that is not so simple. And if from the words of the Mishnah Berurah, it seems one should be stringent and be careful not to learn without saying Birkas HaTorah prior, even if it's just reading a halacha. Says the Mechaber Sefei Birkas HaTorah Shekshadem Sotzim V'Tenu Al Divrei Torah V'Harav Nanu V'Harav Na V'Asher B'Chamanu. So right away in Mishnah Berurah Sivkat and Ches points out, of course, our minhag Al Divrei Torah minhag Medina Sin Loimer. We don't say Al Divrei Torah, we say Las like with Divrei Torah. And similarly continues Mishnah Berurah Ger Yach Loimer Asher B'Chamanu. Ger is able to say Asher B'Chamanu. He was chosen even though he was born a guy. V'Harav Na Sivkat and Tes. Some add into the words, not only for our children, but for our children's children. Why? If your children and Greek and grandchildren are Tamidei Chachamim, the Torah will never leave. Says Mishnah Berurah, you do not have to say this. And therefore, Tzatzenu just means generations, offsprings. Therefore, you do not have to specify if Tzatzoi, including the bracha of Ve'asher B'Cha Says Mishnah Berurah, parents should always have their children in mind. They spalal b'neim to daven for their children. How many countless stories have we heard that the reason why children, grandchildren have become successful due to the tears, due to the tefillahs of their parents and grandparents. When saying the bracha of Av Rabba or Av Asaylim for Nesach Sfardas, we'll see you should have kavano Birkas HaTorah b'shash ha'emer b'nei anachlim setzeinu. And similarly, when you say in us and our offsprings any time we're davening for our children, it says the Mishnah Berurah, be careful to have them in mind, as the tefillahs of the parents are very, very beneficial for the child. And we continue with Sivav that says the Machamer Omer v'ha'arev im avav. But says the Ramah, when our minig is to say without avav, but the Ramah concludes, so very interesting. The Machaber says with avav. The Ramah says the minig is without avav, but then the Ramah concedes that it's better to say it with avav. Continues the Mishnah Berurah explaining what's going on over here. Why would you have a vav? Because v'harev no. Now it's all one bracha. If it was its own bracha, ha'arev no, it would begin with baruch, as every bracha does. Says Mishmur, what do you mean? It wouldn't start with baruch, because any bracha that's next to the next bracha, we know does not begin with bracha. Given the brachas k'tzaros, the short brachas, therefore the klal is, the rule is, anytime we have short brachas, even when one bracha is next to the next, we still begin with baruch. Just like we find by Avdallah, each one begins with baruch, even though they're next to each other. Why? Because they're short brachas. So says the Mishnah Berurah, the klal is, short brachas always begin with baruch, even when they're next door to each other. But says Mishnah Berurah, what does the Yesh Aimrim? The Yesh Aimrim that says, say without avav, what is he old? Explains the Mishnah Berurah, the shani brachas Avdallah shein smuchos. You can't bring a raya from Avdallah. It's true by Avdallah, you'd say baruch and Yishayim, she'enan smuchos. Shiny brachas Avdallah she'enan smuchos. Why? Why is Avdallah different? They are smuchos. They are one next door to each other. Explains the Mishnah Berurah why because you could make each bracha independently. A bracha asmuch chaverta, the Yishayim holds a very important rule. It doesn't just mean bracha A is next to bracha B. You said bar minei b'sam is next to bar minei reish, next to ala gafin. No, because each one of those three can be said independently and prove in the pudding. We actually say them independently. For example, we just said by Tisha B'Av, we say the bracha of Ish. And that's why that man, the Amar old, they're not called the bracha asmuch l'chaverta, and that is the reason why you say baruch each time. But the Ramah continued and concluded that Yisr Taiv, that what's the best way to do it, to say it with a vav, which is of course what we do, v'harev no. Says Mishnah Berurah, Sivkat in your base, keeps day yoteni day kol adeyos. Sending here to everyone. Avalim timer b'loy vav, have a harev, bracha b'vnei atzva v'yefsek. If you say without a vav, then it's its own bracha, and then it's absek lo isadesh just feel the bracha achasi, according to the opinion that holds it's one bracha. V'cheinogin kayoim noimer v'harev v'vav. Ulinyan aniyas amin achlasik b'divrei Torah. Should you say amin before v'harev? Yesh teir bein achreinim v'reiv achreinim esadim shalanas amin noachim shevarach avarach zu b'lachash. Should do it quietly. So that's exactly what we do. We say lasting b'divrei Torah. We do not say amin. Then we go straight into v'harev na. And this is most relevant on Shavuos night when we're being going to the bracha to someone else. The minhag is that the person that's making the bracha says lasting b'divrei Torah v'harev right away, so someone does not answer amin. And similarly, if someone's in shul saying the brachas, he should be careful, as Mishnah Berurah is saying, to say it quietly so that one does not answer amen. And we continue with Siv Zayin, says the Machaber. Birkas Ahavas Oilim Poiteres Birkas HaTorah. You can be Yaitze Birkas HaTorah, Birkas Ahavas Oilim Im Laman Miyad B'Liyavsik. If you're Yaitze right away, let's take this straight away with Sivchas. So, of course, if we're being Yaitze with Avas Ilam, and you're saying you have to learn Torah right away, the question is, what do you mean? You do learn Torah right away. You say Kriya Shema. So the Machaber continues straight away in Sivchaz and says, one should be in doubt, it's a suffix, if Kriya Shema you're Yaitze, and therefore, that's the reason to say Birkas HaTorah. Because one would say, wait, why am I saying Birkas HaTorah? I say Avas Ilam, I say Ahava Rabba, then I say Shema right after, and great, I'm Yaitze according to everyone. The reason is because it's not clear if Shema is called learning Torah that you are Yaitze. Explains the Mishnah Berurah. We're going to conclude with these two sifim. Sifkat and Gimel says the Mishnah Berurah Avas Eilam. Not at Avas Eilam. Lafi Mashim Pasuk Mon Sim Samach Sev Aleph. That's what Nusach Sfard says. Aval Ramah Shamayim Avarav V'Shachris. But the Ramah over there in Sim Samach says, like the Ashkenazim, they say Avarabah. Says the Mishnah Berurah. Upashet do adin Birkas Avas Eilam. And similarly, Avas Eilam Ba'arvis is the same thing. Gamkin Shapai Teres. The Zilbasar Taima. V'Nafka Mina Leininim Avar V'Yashin Shanas Keva Amidas Lekaidim. As we're going to see more tomorrow, if someone sleeps a Shinas Keva on his bed during the day, which we're going to see is a very big shayla, whether you have to say Birkas HaTorah afterwards. The minhag we're going to see is not L'das Mechaber like B'Mesiv Yudal Shenas Keva Havi Afsik, but Mechaber holds it is Afsik. And you need a new Birkas HaTorah. But if you live via minhag, as Mr. Berurah points out, the minhag that we have, as we'll see tomorrow, is that we go to Yisharim, that we do not say Birkas HaTorah, even if we have a Shinas Keva, a set sleep, we go into our bed for a few hours during the day. Mikol Makam, even though that's what we paskin, says the Mishnah Berurah, what should you do? What is best? When you daven in Ma'ariv, you should have in mind to pater, to have it work in place of Birkas HaTorah, as we'll see to Nasif Shayla and many Rishonim and Achreinim hold that you should indeed say Birkas HaTorah. Let's say das Rav Paiskim to be Yotze Rav Paiskim Shamachmir Mazad that are stringent. For like one Mishnah Berurah, Ayin Shamayim Ber Allah Ayin Afkamina. Poitaris Yodalit Sheish Abba Mein Birkas HaTorah. Why is Avas Eilam Avarabah Pater Birkas HaTorah? Because it has a form of Birkas HaTorah. B'Seim B'Libeinu Lel Moedolami Lishmar V'Lasas V'Lekayim. Because when you say that passing, that is a form of Birkas HaTorah that we're asking Hashem to put in our heart to learn and to guard and keep all the mitzvahs. Ulachayra Midisasa Mashma Dafilu B'Loi Kivin Beis Abracha Lifter B'Dei Birkas HaTorah Sagi. Sounds like you don't even need to have kavanah v'ayin ber Allah. Im lamad sirkav den tazval. If you learn right away, the Birkas Avarabah even dinitkan ho ikar lekriyishma, since it was made for kriyishma lo mischad the Birkas HaTorah. It doesn't appear like Birkas HaTorah ela b'sheinim miyad unless you actually learn. Because alavosh avim mispal b'sima tvilei no nikrab zevs. So wait, everyone's wondering, when am I supposed to learn right away? I said Avarabah, then I say Shema, then I say Shemona Esrei. So when do I have a moment to learn? So says the Lavosh, you can learn right after davening. That's not called a hapsik. That's called learning right away. Miyad right away to the Zayin. But even a drop. And this is a big cloud. Once you say Birkas HaTorah, you don't have to make the bracha the rest of the day. If you even if you're a mafsik, you stopped learning, and then you returned, you don't have to make a new bracha. We conclude with Sivches that the Mishnah Berurah pointed out, Yishli is stopping Sivkotan Yudzayin on the Mechaber, whether you're Yoyte with Kriya Shema. Why? Because some say Kriya Shema is like Tefillah, why are you saying Kriya Shema during davening? Because you're only saying it as a form of davening. You're not saying it as a form of learning. And we'll point out that this note 21 points out very importantly that let's say you're davening at a minyan that doesn't make Zman Kriya Shema. So then what did you do? You of course said Kriya Shema before davening to be Yotze Mitzvah Daraisa of Kriya Shema. Then when you were saying Kriya Shema again by davening, why are you doing that? Then you're not just doing it as to be Yotze your mitzvah of Kriya Shema, then you actually are doing it l'shem limud, and then you would be Yotze Birkas HaTorah. V'ayin bir agrosh yechei b'pshit is saying Kriya Shema ma'il is that the guy said it does not help. Acham batzasi gangim say v'al yorabah shevi gang kein mi'ar be'paiskim paskin halacha that it does not help. Venira says Mishnah Berurah. Excuse me. I said it's in 021. Excuse me. It's Mishnah Berurah. Pardon. Venira. If you read Kriya Shema after Zman Kriya Shema, meaning you already said it early. So why are you saying it again now after the Zman? Because it's Kikayir B'Atayra, it's part of davening. It's if you're learning. Sure, that the Kriya Shema could suffice as Birkas HaTorah. Why should you say Birkas HaTorah by itself? Because you might forget to say Birkas HaTorah, you might forget to learn after davening. Just to point out one note over here. There's a lot of notes that we could really point out. But one note over here is, let's just look at note 17, which is really going to be Hakdama for tomorrow's shir, that if you slept during the day, you put on pajamas during the day, so the Makar Chaim holds, you make a bracha Birkas HaTorah. But Rav Yashiv and Rav Chaim Kanievsky, and we're going to see tomorrow, the minhag is, even in such a scenario, you do not say Birkas HaTorah, and Just one last detail to end on a positive. Everything's a positive note that we spoke about davening for our children. It quotes over here in note 12 that the Likutei Ma'arich says that we could say because the bracha is lashon rabim, and not only in yourself. And therefore, even if one is not able to have children, even if one is not currently actively having children, even if one is past the age, etc., any of those scenarios, still you say because you're davening for all of Klal Yisrael that everyone should be able to learn Torah. We'll continue Birkas HaTorah in the next year. B'siyata d'ishmaya.